Bamfordrose and it's forum chat time. What is an acceptable level of misfire on a V12 to prevent the catalyst from failing and then doing horrible things when the engine ingests the debris? Easy answer to this, and there have been videos about this in the past, which is no misfire. You don't want your engine misfiring at all. So at service, it should be put on the diagnostic laptop and it should be checked for misfire across a range of conditions and whilst driving. But as we know from previous question of the week highlights such as air filter bingo, will that detailed detective level fishing out misfire actually be done? It will here. So in this video that plays now, this is the misfire monitor running real time, and you can see that this particular engine has got a problem on cylinder number 7, and there's quite a big misfire count as that red bar graph starts to count up for misfires. Cylinder 8 has registered a couple of misfires, but if it doesn't continually increase, then it's probably just a recording of misfire, a one-off vent, or maybe it wasn't misfire at all. And you can see there that as that misfire monitor is running on all other cylinders, there's no recordings of misfire whatsoever. And when your car goes on the misfire monitor, that's what you want to see. Now, we had a 2014 Vanquish in. Here you can see it on the ramp. And here you can see a picture of its odo that it's only done 5,700 miles. You know, this car was really well cared for, really nice car. But as we backed it onto the ramp, you could sort of hear a little bit of a flutter in the exhaust, a little bit of a ba 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 ba. It was very, very subtle, and you had to listen for long enough to detect it. This aroused our suspicions that the car was misfiring, and certainly the owner didn't know or wasn't aware of any misfires, and worryingly enough, where he serviced it at previously didn't detect this either. So here's the laptop screen again running through a video of misfire monitor, and as you can see, you've got cylinders 2 and 9 counting up significant misfires there. That's certainly a misfire level to be worried about catalyst condition on the V12. You see that cylinders 1, 5 and 12 have nothing. Now, if cylinders 3 and 4 were steadily increasing and you could correlate an increase in the bar graph to what you felt on the chassis and you heard a popping out the exhaust, and you could validate that that was a real misfire through several different means, and it's continuing to misfire, then again, even though cylinders 3 and 4 are of a lower level magnitude of misfire, then because you can correlate it as a real event, that's obviously something to be worried about. Now, you could look at cylinders 6 and 7. You can't correlate those to an actual misfire that took place, and then you question, was the system falsely detecting a misfire? Because, you know, on the odd time that can happen. Now, in the case of that Vanquish, when you held it above 3,000 RPM, the misfire didn't occur whatsoever. So you could hold it at 3, 3, 5, 4, and no misfire counts at all. This car only exhibited misfire below 3,000 RPM, and it was predominant at about 2,800 RPM, so this is motorway cruising speed. At idle, it was a very, very subtle popping in the exhaust, and if suspicions weren't aroused by that popping to put it on a misfire monitor, then it would basically go unnoticed that at 2,000 RPM there's quite a severe misfire. The driver certainly wouldn't feel this because it's not of a level where you'd feel a bit of a shimmy in the chassis, because the misfire is making the engine sort of jitter around. You know, this is undetected misfire, which will only become present when enough unburnt fuel has gone onto the face of the catalyst starts to erode, bits of it start to fragment, and then the engine ingests that debris and it fails the engine. As cars get older, then cars develop old car problems, and whatever those problems might be, the end result, the symptom, it can be a misfire. Misfire can happen for several different reasons. Maybe the breather circuit's failed and there's contamination of oil and combustion is poor. Maybe it's spark plug, maybe it's coil, maybe it's injector dribble, maybe it's some form of electrical interference. Coil driver breaking down, injector driver breaking down. The older the car becomes, then the more causes and possibilities for misfire exists, and the likelihood of failing the catalyst is a reality. Now, this particular Vanquish did have a primary decat and high flow secondary catalyst fitted, so if the engine was to misfire any further, then there'll be absolutely no consequence whatsoever. Turns out that this car is, what, 8 years old now, only 5,700 miles on the clock. We renewed the spark plugs, so fouling of that fine wire center electrode spark plug that you can't clean, and once they're fouled they won't regenerate. That was the cause of the misfire in this case. Primary decat and high flow secondaries also gives you a great sound increase, and it's going to give you about 30 brake horsepower. The total cost of the activity is less than the VAT element of an engine rebuild. Fortunately, because it came to Bamfordrose, then this was another car saved. There was no catalyst failure on this car, and there was no catalyst ingestion failing the engine. If you don't perform a primary decat on your car, then just make sure that regularly you run a misfire monitor and the data looks like the examples I've shown as something that's safe. We'll see you on the next forum chat.